Alright, so this is a video that I wanted to put together showing the installation of the LSX Innovations power steering pump bracket kit. The application that this is going on is an L86 Gen 5 LT engine that I'm swapping into an H1 Hummer. And there's a couple things that I noticed with this kit outside of having to request some missing parts from the original shipping. When I started to kind of get into it, I saw some areas where this kit could probably further be improved, and part of that has to do with just the way that the setup is with removal of the vacuum pump and the utilization of the delete plate that they provide. A couple things to note is that when you do remove the pump, as seen here, you've got a port here and then you've got a port over here that have to be plugged. Now, what LSX has pretty much shown is that you can use this plate here to essentially delete this whole section here. I personally like to have the ports completely plugged. There is a screw that comes from GM that you can actually go in and you can plug it. It's like 15 bucks, so I bought those online and went ahead and plugged both the ports. Now the issue that arises is if you've done what I've done and you go to buy this kit, what you're going to find is that you're going to have interference with the plug that goes to this port here. The reason being is that the plug sits higher than the surface area here, and so what happens is that this plate does not fit correctly because it won't sit flush. So what I did is I took this same kit and or this plate, and what I did is I just milled out the section right there so that it accommodates the head of the plug. So essentially, this is the wrong screw, but essentially it fits like that. So it's just enough recess. I recessed it just enough so that the head fits inside that area there, and what that does is it allows this entire surface area here to be flush up against the block. So that was my first gripe about this kit is if you have done the plug kit, I think that is a great idea because I feel like the seal using the plugs is going to be better than just using this plate and having oil basically flowing in this area. Now, I think, I could be wrong here, but I think with this plate, it actually blocks off the flow going into the cavity area. So, someone could probably say, well, then you just, with this delete plate, it's going to take care of that. But I personally like the fact of having the plugs in there and then having the plate on top as added reassurance that I'm not going to have any leaks in the future. So that was my first gripe with this kit, is just a little machining here could actually allow somebody to run the plugs and also the delete plate rather than me having to drill and Dremel that stuff out. The other issue that I had is if we look at this plate and we look at the pump here, what we'll notice is that the factory bolts, that's how far they come out right there. So pretty good amount of thread, as you can see, that go into the block. So, that's a good amount of threads there. I don't know necessarily that we need all that threads for a plate, but what they provide you are these M8 25 millimeter right here, and I wanted to show you guys the difference between using these, the factory bolts, and then just some bolts that I found handy in my shop here. So first, let's just take a look at the factory bolts. So one thing that I was missing is another one of these bolts. So kind of a little aggravating there, but they've been pretty good to work with. So let me just show you, put that through, kind of what I run into using the same bolt size. So again, this is going to be the same bolt size that they say in their instructions to use. I'm going to zoom in. Oh, there we go. Focus it. They're all the same size, but what you'll find is that this bracket, you'll see, is stepped. So what happens is if I put a bolt through the thin section, that's how much that's how much threads I have. Let me get it focused. So if we look at that, and let me just, a little hard to do this one-handed, but let me see if I can get a bolt into this other section here. All right, perfect. So this is what I want to show you guys. So this is plenty of threads right here, I think, for the going into the block. Same with this side. So this is the side that is thinner when it doesn't have the step up. But then what you notice is that when you have the step up, look at how little threads that you have right there going into the block. So that's the step up section. So again, you've got a ton of threads over here, but then over here you don't have that many threads. So I don't know why they don't just give you two different sizes so you have the same amount of threads going into the block. It just seems like kind of an oversight there. So again, there's the step up. They give you the same bolts. You go in here, so you got different thread sizes going into the block. So my kind of position on this is give us different bolt sizes for the different heights of the plate, and that way we have adequate amount of threads going into the block on each end. So in comparison, let's just show you the factory bolt. Now keep in mind that the factory has different bolt sizes. So on this side, these are the two sides right here that are actually narrower and smaller bolts because the material's thinner here than it is over on this side. But what do you notice is that these threads, they all have about the same amount of threads going into the block, not with the LSX bracket. So something to take in consideration when you're putting this kit together. Not that it makes a big deal because again it's just a block off plate, but we're going to have a bracket right here that's going to have a little bit of load to it, and that's where the part of the pump bracket is going to mount to. So I just think it would be nice to have a little bit more thread. So what I did is I've actually found these bolts here, and you can see, just bear with me real quick here. Sorry, just gonna put these in there. That way you guys can see exactly what I'm talking about. So there we go. Now I've got more threads on that bolt than the bolt that's provided, and then same with the other side over here. I've got more threads again right here versus look at how many little threads right there. So I just think it's a minor thing, but something to be mindful of if you're going to be installing this kit. So let me just show you real quick on my application. I've got an H1 Hummer that I'm putting together, this swap, and I'll show you some of what I was mentioning earlier as it relates to the block. So you can see there, that's the location of the block off screws for the oil ports. And then what I do is that right there is the top one. Again, I milled out that top there. So now that fits flush. So in my opinion, I just think it's a great or better overall solution. And then I'll just go ahead and put in some new plates there. So that's just my opinion. Again, all this stuff is really high quality, so I'm not knocking their product, but just I think some hardware changes would probably be in place, or if you're like me and you've got some screws laying around, it'll probably be an easy fix. But overall, you know, as far as the kit goes, I mean, here's the pulley, I mean, really good stuff. And if you look at the main bracket here, it's a really nice piece. So that's all I had to offer in terms of my review of the LSX Innovations power steering kit, bracket kit. Overall, I'm pretty happy with everything so far, with the exception of just those things that I noted. And really kind of looking forward to getting the pump on and getting this thing all mounted up. So if you have any questions, be sure to comment. Also be sure, if you are into looking at progress of swaps and everything like that, again, I've got a 95 H1 that I'm putting together here with an LT L86 6.2 engine with the 8-speed trans and electronic transfer case. So this is going to be a beast when I'm done, and I'm really looking forward to it. So be sure to follow more of my videos if you want to see more progress as I get this thing together, and we'll see you on the other side. Thanks.